Hello and welcome to the Mysticast, where you join Jack Stafford and Deborah Littleboy, members of the Aetherius Society, the cosmic religion for the Aquarian Age, as we break down the barriers between religion, science, metaphysics, philosophy, and mysticism, all of which are really only aspects of the self-same quest for truth. Please note, this is an independent program not produced or fact-checked by the Aetherius Society. Today, our guest is Nicholas Corrin. Hello, Nicholas.
Hello, I'm pleased to meet you, Jack.
Where are you in the world today?
I'm in Basel, Switzerland.
We were just discussing before we came on which part of Basel.
Oh, it's a place called Breite, which is kind of on the east end of the city before it becomes Birsfelden. So that's where the river Birs is a tributary into the Rhine. We're just right there by the river.
And how did you end up there?
Well, we moved here a couple of years ago from the United States. We moved to Switzerland in 2021.
And what was the reason for that? Is it a good place for healing? Are you in an energetic center, or?
I'm originally, like you, born in the UK, but I have family history and family here in Switzerland and northern Italy. And I decided it was the right time. We decided it was the right time to leave the US after being there for many years. So hence we're here.
Okay. Yeah, I'm in Italy. Deborah's in the UK. So we're all spread over.
Oh, Deborah, you're in the UK, not the US. Okay, yes. Well, we're all on the similar time zone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We heard about you from New Dawn magazine. I think you were writing in that. Interesting articles about your book, The Power of Letting Go.
Yeah, I wrote a number of articles for them. I haven't for a while. Yeah, The Power of Letting Go was published, I think, about 10 years ago, but written about almost 20 years ago.
Could you talk us through that just for people that haven't read it?
Certainly. Its subtitle is Transforming Fear into Love, and I think we wanted to talk about that today, particularly fear, what it is and how to not live in it. So The Power of Letting Go is really about letting go of stale energy and assumptions that drive people into security, and makes a distinction between security and safety. How it's important to embrace uncertainty, to accept risk in order to find trust. And love is represented as a state of liberated consciousness where one is not afraid and feeling disconnected with others or oneself or the greater whole. So there, the prerequisite is finding the wherewithal within to let go of clinging to something that is actually going to incarcerate you, put you in jail, which is your desire for security, because security being the side effect of being in a fear state, aka a disconnected state, aka a manipulable state, aka a place of imprisonment and danger, ironically speaking. So the way to evade danger is to risk coming out into the open and finding out what is really the underlying reality and where your resources, the taproot of your authentic self. That's an action, it's an engagement, it's not a theory. So the book's kind of like discussing how it gives exercises how to move in that direction.
So can you go? Sorry, Jack, talking over you again. Didn't take me long, did it? Can you tell us what some of those exercises that you would advise to somebody that's come to you as in a state of fear? How would you start to work with them to get them to accept, one, that they were in a fear state? Because I'm guessing that some people are in denial that it is fear. So am I on the right track here, or is...
Also, just to add on that, I was just going to say that fear is not, people say, I'm frightened, that it wouldn't say I'm frightened. Not many people would say, but I love your definition of fear as being even something as light as doubt can be based on fear, or, insecurity is based on fear. So there are lots of branches to the tree of fear. Yeah.
Well, I just want to start out by saying that, and in the book I try to show this, fear is something natural and it's not something bad. There's nothing wrong with, in fact, without experiencing fear, you can't experience anything. It's natural to feel fear. I think the place to start is to accept the naturalness of fear, not run away from that as a concept, tune into what it is in you that generates fear, and understand the nature of fear. To me, the nature of fear is the place to start, and then what are you really afraid of? Because if you think you have no fear, you're in denial. Denial is actually an expression of fear. It's a way of being secure within an illusion. So whoever says, I don't have any fear, probably lying to themselves.
Oh, everything's fear. You really, you could walk into, anyone that walks through the door is basically afraid.
They're afraid of their own fear. This is the thing. If you, this is the thing, really. You've got to let go of the fear of your fear. And you've got to walk into that fear, and you've got to walk through that fear. That's courage. What I believe the Aetherius Society calls bravery.
Yep.
It's a similar term, not quite the same. And that's the part of knowledge, because you're stepping into the unknown by stepping into the fear.
Well, you're hitting on something there, and you can't be afraid of something you know, that you really know. You might be wary of it, but you're not. You can be like a huge dog just around the corner, but you're not. You've courage to go into that, but it's different between fear. Fear is based on the unknown. Would you agree with that? Or?
Not really. The saying is that the devil you know is worse than the devil you don't know, because if you can be afraid of something you know, but you have a adapted response to that thing. You tiptoe around it, or you have a strategy of working with it, but you're terrified of, or you might need to be terrified of what you don't know, but you haven't prepared, the devil you don't know, but you haven't prepared for that. So the point is that, for me, one needs to understand what fear is. It's a word, but like love, it's composed of 4 letters, but what does that really mean? See, to me, do you mind if I just try to...
Please.
Go on. So fear is kind of like an emotion, but an emotion is never something independent of a thought or an action. Emotion is a state of energy that interfaces between a perception or a set of perceptions, which constitutes a way of thinking, and behavior, whether it's autonomic nervous system response inside the body, or reaching out, or aligning with something, or saying something. It's a continuum. So if it's an emotional vibration that connects between perception or misperception and action or wrong action, it's that vibratory feeling state, which is different in a human than, let's say, a zebra or a fly or a bug or a microbe. But it's that kind of a sentience. So what is the essence of fear in terms of that feeling state? What is it? Fear is something of, right? Fear of something. You can't have fear without it being of something. So you need to know, what are you afraid of? So what is the fundamental of with fear? It has 2 sides like a coin. The one side is suffering, and the other side is extinction or non-being. And when people are afraid, they're either afraid of suffering and or not being there, the lights going out in some way. And those 2 aspects are never really separable, like the 2 sides of a coin. So when you know what fear really is, the distilled essence of it, you know you're dealing with, I anticipate, if I'm afraid, suffering, and I anticipate the end of my sense of I am, my sense of existing through my identity. And that's the grip of fear. So the way out of fear is to understand fear itself, and to understand what I particularly am afraid of, because it would be a variation of one of those: suffering or fear of disappearing, fear of not existing.
I'm really having to
It's
concentrate
hard to-
today. I mean, we're getting deep into philosophy here. This is heavy water here. I just want to take it to because you said, what you know, and we kind of honed in on that. And they say, and the masters say, that ignorance is the only crime on this earth. All suffering arises from that, because suffering is disease. Yes, you know what it is. So if ignorance rising from lack of wisdom, or shall we say knowledge of God, or knowledge of everything.
Yeah, so ignorance is from the Greek root, but in the Sanskrit root, avidya means the absence or the negation of knowledge, which is to do with vision, to do with knowing. So the less that one knows, the more one is in ignorance, and the more is in ignorance, the more disconnected one is, and the more disconnected one is from the greater whole, the more one misperceives things, and the more one misperceives things, the more one is afraid of consequences of things that I don't really understand. That's the concatenation, the chain link between not knowing, being in ignorance, and actions based on projections or misperceptions and the vibration of fear.
Well, action is karma, and our lack of knowledge of karma causes us to commit all these crimes, against our right down to our health, right down to bad thoughts. I mean, what are you thinking, Deborah?
I was going to
Corrin?
ask what he does with his people that he's working with, because I'm thinking you're using this in your clinic in your clinic and in your work. You're working with people that fundamentally come to you in a state of fear. How do you break that cycle? How do you work with them to break that to make them understand that there's a way out? Because I know that fear for me can freeze you on your spot. So you're too frightened even to move forward or to even hear sometimes. So I'm interested in the methods.
She drills it down. She always gets to the heart of things.
I want to know how you would help somebody get from place A to place B in simple speak.
Sure. Well, as a physician, I work with a whole range of different conditions, not just psychological or fear-based, a whole range of problems. Pain relates to infections or injuries or organ malfunctions. But the way I approach physical conditions is from a very specialized psychogenic understanding, meaning how the psyche is actually expressing or putting energy such that the body develops these expressions of those subliminal or suppressed states of the soul, suppressed of the psyche. So that when I work with people as a clinician, I'm working one-on-one. When I work with people as a teacher, I teach material, as a mentor, as a teacher, as a guide. But when I'm working clinically with people, I'm nowadays working exclusively remotely. And when I work remotely, it's through this screen. However, because I use special non-physical, metaphysical techniques to interface with my patient, in their totality, then things open up that, whether it's on a physical, energetic, emotional, higher emotional, mental, spiritual level, could be all sorts of factors, because in the field around the individual person is basically everything. And that everything holds the past and future of that person fractally, so that everything in the monad, meaning the individual specific soul configuration of the person, is encrypted in the space that surrounds and interfuses with the person. So when I work with people, for example, you're there, I'm here, through the screen, I activate this field, and the person's lying down, and then they'll have all sorts of sensations and releases, and information will come up from within their body or around their body. It could be, something that they experience as a wave, as a temperature change, as a shaking, as a light, as a vision, or as a connection of something from a deceased person, or something from their past, or something. It's effectively such a rich domain, such an open field, and it's highly specific to the individual and whatever journey they are on. So because everybody's on a journey, whether they admit it or not, but it's their own journey. And to that extent, it's archetypal. It's everybody's journey, but it's also their own very particular journey. So whatever happens in there and what comes up is highly attuned to their, to their frame of reference. It's information that's highly targeted from within at their well-being, at their onward development. So in that sense, it's teaching, but it's not me saying something to them from outside. It's me helping translate from inside what's welling up within them from the greater sphere. Because doctor comes through a docere in Latin to teach. So this is a teaching from within the auric field that comes up like some type of a fountain or geyser during the session. That's what enables the healing to move through a blockage or a sluice gate.
So do you see, psychically, do you see their auric field changing as releasing goes on? Is it a psychic vision that you're using, or something different?
It's a combination of some seeing of the aura, or seeing in the body, and clairsentiently feeling. I use a tiny little gold antenna that I hold, and that enables me to pick up anywhere I track inside the organs or in the energy body or the emotions. And I track, and if I feel a vortex or I feel something, then I translate it in my brain, translate it into an image or an understanding of something, which I relay back. The thing is that when I pick up on something, automatically it causes a harmonization or an improvement in that thing I've detected, because it's a transceiver response. It's not just me picking up something, it automatically loops back, but because it's looping back within the sanctity of the individual's own aura, it's not something correcting from outside. It's kind of like underwater and scanning, and then like a dolphin moving around and then taking somebody out of the net, and then they're able to swim again. So from my perception, it's perception that is anchored in very highly tuned clairsentience, feeling, palpation, and that palpation, the vibration I pick up in my mind gives me both visual pictures and also cognitive understandings, meaning interpretations, which then I can verbally, it triggers those, and I verbally get in this flow with the patient, sometimes during, sometimes subsequent to the actual energy session. And then it's a kind of a synchronization of my mind and their mind in one loop.
Mm-hmm. We're told by Dr. King that gold is the very best material for this type of work, to actually as a transceiver to balance the auric fields. We have something in the society which is called an auric harmonizer. I'm trying to find a similarity between like the nuts and bolts of what we have and what you're doing. And what I'm seeing as I'm trying to tune into what you're saying is what we have, which is an auric harmonizer. So I'll just explain that to you and to anybody who might be listening. If we had the money, it would have been all in gold. But hey, we haven't got the money. So Dr. King designed it in copper. And he said that that's also is a good metal for this type of work. And it goes from the top of your head. It's like you encase yourself in this copper case, if you want to, band. So we have a band from the top of our head to our feet. So it fits us perfectly. And we've got a band that goes across the chest to the heart chakra and at the back. And we have a gold disc there. So it's plated, because again, it's a money thing. So we've got a gold plated disc to the front and the back, and we hold our arms within this this casement.
Mm-hmm.
In other words, we're told that first of all, we have to really squeeze out, like really tighten up every single muscle that we possibly can, as tight as we can, and then release it. And that sort of starts to get the energy flowing. And then we've got this whole, so we get the energy flowing, and then that, if you like, takes the little vortexes that you know, the blockages in all of our nadi systems, it will actually harmonize them. And what I'm hearing, rightly or wrongly, is that you're actually you're an auric harmonizer. Because although we are having to activate it, you as a human more finely tuned instrument can actually go in and find the blockages and actually go right into them. So laser into the energy blocks.
Yeah, no, I think you're on the right track there. So I mean, just to regroup. So yes, what Dr. King said about the efficacy of gold is correct. I can corroborate that. Copper is very highly conductive, but at lower frequencies. So gold actually can conduct higher frequencies, therefore higher octaves. There are octaves of metals and octaves of everything. So gold has this greater, more refined capacity to tap into these higher frequencies and therefore move higher frequency energies that might be stultified or atrophied or whatever. But yes, to me, the gold is a tool. It's a helping device. Doesn't do it by itself. It just enables me to do, or it enables my higher capacities to tune in, enter in, unravel, participate with, and assist towards healing, growth, or expansion of consciousness that's required for that healing to actually occur on a physical level. Because sometimes there's a karmic factor, small or great, that is producing symptomology so that the person can actually meet that challenge of growth of that and feel the wonderful effects of having moved out of that equation into a brighter understanding of themselves and a brighter field. So illness in that sense is, as Rudolf Steiner pointed out, is a predetermined karmic situation, which it's important, if you're healing the person at a medical level, at a physical level, that you don't interfere with that karma that's in the invisible ink of that condition. So the person needs to, at the same time, if they're being treated, so that they, at a physical, medical level, are liberated from that situation, that they understand the encrypted meaning of that situation, a soul level, so that the karma is changed, that the karma is released. So with the things that I do, because it's extremely subtle, it's able to cross-refer between, it depends on the degree of development of the person, what they can tap into as well. But essentially, it's moving through all of these sheaths and layers and translating or transducing information that's encrypted at different frequency levels of the total energy field or the aura.
So if I go back to gold, and you
Sure.
said that take the higher octaves, which again goes in with our teachings. We're told that that love, for example, and fear have different octaves of manifestation.
Mhm.
Can gold do the whole spectrum, or can it only tap into the finest, or is the finest within the densest anyway?
Well, the physical gold is will resonate with intangible levels of gold at higher octaves. Everything has higher octaves. Water has octaves which can be activated in non-fluid substances, for example. So the higher the octave, the more potent the energy. So different colors and different metals have resonances on the higher the octave of energy level that's activated or inducted into the recipient, the more powerful the healing results.
Okay.
The smaller the dosage, the tinier the vibration, the faster the frequency, the more minimalistic, subtle the source, the more powerful the result.
Because it gets straight to the root.
It doesn't get straight through, but it comes from the source, closer to the source, like the more pure source. However, as you get not towards the root, but towards the trunk, towards the thickening of the material level, you have to sometimes use lower frequencies to carve through these obstructions. That's why it's not just about going to the highest of the highest and switch that on. You also have to work at different levels simultaneously. That harmonization is all-embracing phenomenon, isn't it? It's not just go to the best of the best. No, you have to link everything. And so the same with the chakra system, or, you have to engage all levels of the person's psycho-spiritual body, not simply the higher ones, because they should be working as this peaceful loop. And so the more primitive emotions and the more ego-based emotions or drives have to be integrated, because they serve a function for the higher, more altruistic, more love-based or wisdom-based aspects. They should not be disconnected. Everything needs to be in balance and everything needs to be supporting it. So that whole concept of harmony, wisdom, and love should be percolating also within each individual at all times. And things can go off unless the person's really centered and wise. Some part will start to spin more strongly than the other and will try to fight with the other one. And then, we're in trouble because the person's not balanced anymore.
And would that manifest if in their environment? So you'll put them into balance, and they're okay, and everything's going along, and then suddenly they're back into into an environment that had encouraged and promoted that disharmony. Can that set them off a balance again? Is that something that you see?
Yes, people, when we talk about transmuting fear or leaving fear, many people have been abused as infants or suffered trauma, or, in the womb already have had, because the fetus can see and hear through the umbilicus, or through the membrane of the uterus into the room where the parents are, and can understand the language. For example, if the language of the parents is Urdu or Swedish, and you're a fetus in the womb of the mother in that nation, the fetus, already can understand that language, even though you never learn any of it yet. When you're born, you forget, you no longer have that aptitude. So when you're in that chamber, as you're morphing from the embryo to the fully fledged fetus, you're absorbing a lot of input from your parental or extended family or, your surroundings. Similarly, when you're an infant, a toddler, and if you've suffered some type of terrifying to you or really terrifying sexual abuse or worse that we have so much in the world today, that will mark you. And you might be a quite evolved, high-functioning person in many ways later on, but that will still be a kind of a thorn in the flesh that can easily cause blood to come out of it and be triggered. So, we're walking contradictions. Parts of us are quite together and evolved, and other parts need help. And so it's not, in those cases with people, you can't expect them to just transmute their fear into love. They might already have a lot of open-hearted, loving energy, but there's a wound in there that needs special help, special tracking and special soothing. And yes, it's true that interpersonal energy is like a open circuit. So, even through the computer interface and through the medium, everybody's energy is affecting everybody else's energy. And so something over there can trigger something here, and this will start spinning. And why did this happen? Why do I suddenly feel drained? Or why do I suddenly feel depressed? I was feeling okay. And how did this happen? Because the wheels started turning. It's like the bicycle chain. The front cog makes the back one turn. So wisdom, or going back to that concept of knowledge, courage, knowledge, love, that service being that sort of four legs of the chair, which I think are the basis of the 9 freedoms, right? Bravery,
service, yeah.
Service, yeah. So service is, why is service an antidote to fear?
Is that a question for me?
Well, the first responder in 9/11 in the Twin Towers, or somebody like a military nurse on the battlefield, or someone working with plague victims, or someone diving in to try to rescue someone who's drowning. They step out of their security zone on behalf of something. Or someone willing to stick their neck out for the truth, even though they might be jailed or they might be at least kicked off Facebook or something because it's censored. That person is acting honorably, and they're stepping out of self-centered survival, me mode into something that's more than just me, more than my own survival. So when you're in service to something, you're automatically loved because you're already in relation with something more than yourself, and you're no longer locked into that pattern of security at all costs. And so that's why I think all of these categories, service, love, courage, knowledge, they're actually extremely interactive. So I think I think that that's what we need. We need the only way out of this, to me, the only way out of this horrible thing happening globally now, which is manipulated, obviously, to make people contract, is not, oh, I'll do this, I need to do this to survive, I need to do that. No, I need to open my heart, and I need to step out of my sort of self-preservation mode. I need to understand that by risking something greater than myself, I'm going to find myself 100 times over, and I'll draw the right response from others, and this is the way out of the labyrinth.
That's something missing from many New Age teachings. It's can be quite a self-centered approach, and I really like what you're saying, that it's and that's something that 9 freedoms.
I think that the so-called New Age teachings were, frankly, part of the CIA operative to make people narcissistic.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, because when you pick people narcissistic, they become apathetic to what's going on out there, and they become staring at their own navel and concerned with their own well-being. And that's demeaning to the human being. That's not love. That's narcissistic self-absorption, disempowerment, and it's not being courageous. So I think that the true spiritual teaching always requires courage, always requires the pursuit of knowledge, always requires the person to seek the right kind of a teacher. It's always about going into this courageous mode of giving and learning and sacrificing pettiness or petty pleasures for something much greater. And that's the path of liberation. Historically, that's the moksha that yogis talk about.
Yeah, the petty free will sacrifice. And that's maybe why the Aetherius Society is so small, because service to others is the main theme is not that popular. You are your brother's keeper.
No, no, exactly, because it's been manipulated. Societies have been manipulated so that the people rendering service, whether they're social workers or nurses or teachers, or those people are poorly paid, and the people are ripping everybody else and richly rewarded. So the psychopaths float to the top, and they're validated, and they're genuine givers of downtrodden, and they're like pariahs, but it's been manipulated into this distorted, weirdly refracted, false reality, this false matrix. So the way out of that is have to take it apart and restore it based on sound principles. So I think these sound principles, I resonate with the 9 freedoms structure, and the most fundamental ones, or beginning ones, because you can't go anywhere unless you build a foundation. And it's a foundation which needs to be restored.
And in the teachings, one of the biggest surprises Dr. King heard was transmutation. Do you have that diagram, Deborah?
I've got the two. We're told, I don't know if you can even be seeing this at the moment. We were told that in the olden days that we had this triangle which was creation. Sorry, I can't even read it. Creation, preservation, and transmigration.
That's the top one.
And then we were told that we can't leave anything behind. So this is not very clear, is it? So we were told that's actually was incomplete, and we have to transmute everything. Every molecule has to be transmuted. We can't leave anything behind, because eventually we all have to go back to a higher and a higher and a higher vibration, which locks into what you were saying, Nicholas, on that you have to have the higher vibrations working in unison with the lower chakra levels. To you can't have that disconnect, because then it doesn't work. So our Dr. King said that in the times of old, yogis would think that they could actually just leave their body behind, and somebody else would clear up the mess. But by transmutation, he's told us that we can't actually go back to God until every molecule of, so we say this earth, but of this body has been raised to a higher level. But I've not explained it properly, but it was
it's a big subject, yeah.
Well, I think you've done a pretty good job describing that. I think that one has to be careful. There's a concept in Ayurveda that, because I'm a doctor of Ayurvedic medicine as well as alternative Oriental medicine. So
did you study with Vasant Lad?
No, I studied with Dr. David Frawley, and then in India, it's an Indian university. But I don't practice regular Ayurvedic medicine. I leave all those concepts behind me, but I'm very well versed in yoga of all sorts and the Ayurvedic disciplines and Tantra. But the concept I was going to refer to was the pitfall of sattvic, like a consciousness that's too desirous, or a person that's seeking to sublimate or to transmute themselves as the goal is very unbalanced, because it's like, and I think that's dangerous for a person. You have to be grounded, you have to be humble. And so if you're going to transmute something the way that your mentor, Dr. George King, is describing it, look at nature. Where are things being transmuted at a molecular level? In the soil by the microbes, in your gut by your microbiome, by bacteria, by the teeniest things. So it's not just at the most refined levels. So when you apply that concept of transmutation, every part of you, to me, it's wisdom says, well, yeah, we have to look at all these levels. We have to remember, we have possibility endlessly to evolve. We have, however, a presence in the here and now in physical bodies. You and I, a physical body. That physical body is a very complex thing connected with non-physical bodies. However, what the tantric saying that I frequently like to reiterate is, what is here is elsewhere, what is not here is nowhere. So if you don't always bring it back to here, you'll never go anywhere. So the thing is, harmony and coherence and consolidation, not constriction, but consolidation is also a key concept, because otherwise it's shapeless, it's formless, and it falls apart. So action, you know, if service is a key, service can be in a myriad different ways, right? You're doing a service, I'm doing a service. Everybody's probably in their way doing a service, whether they like it or not. How to serve in such a way that it contributes outwardly and contributes inwardly is going to enable that type of a transmutation process to move. Anything that impedes that is going to block that and create the opposite effect, an evil effect towards downtroddenness or towards pathology and illness and sickness. So if you look at it that way, then everything, if you fully respect and fully attempt to do something on behalf of, not grab and take, you're on the right track, and you're automatically causing those transmutation dynamics to move and do this, not to go the wrong way.
Which explains why we're told that service is the key. Service is the joy, and the rock of attainment is one of our key phrases. You have to serve. Karma yoga might be a slow way, so the yoga of service, but it is the service of the day. And what we're told over and over again by our masters that is the only way forward for everybody. And because we are part of everybody and everything, so we've got this individual has to do for the whole and for themselves. So this whole do no harm, I guess, but even more than do no harm, do a lot of good by helping out wherever you can.
It also, you know, you talk about the new age being a CIA thing, but this also updates there's like some yogis wouldn't let people touch them because they worried about, we might share karma and be incarnated together, or they would, you know, concentrate only on their soul enlightenment. They go into a cave and, okay, I mean, many enlightened masters came out and they're of greater service. So some people do it to be of greater service, but this is really, karma yoga is now the yoga of the age.
That's our teachings anyway. So got to serve, got to look at the bigger picture. It's almost like we're all in it together. Take one for the team, and just keep going.
Well, I think it's very clear that there are a lot of very rich people, very powerful people, are very miserable, no matter how many billions they've got. So they have to get satisfaction statistically out of doing harm because they can't get pleasure out of their own possessions because they've stepped so deeply into evil. But the person who's depressed and said, okay, I'm depressed, I feel lousy, goes out and, you know, makes a pot of soup for their neighbor or goes for a walk with a lonely older person, and that brings a smile to that person. And the person who's depressed starts to feel good because very naturally they're connected. So service is a term, but, you know, I just want to clarify that you can be in military service, you can be a server at a table in a restaurant. That's not the kind of service, really. We're talking about something naturally giving and engaging. Like
With love.
It serves the heart because it produces the nutrients to make the blood, to give the oxygen. So everything's in service to everything else, and that's coherence. And that's love energy that's connecting everything else. So that's how I'd say service is hardwired into the ecological dynamics of all life, both the life that we can see and the intangible realms that we can't see.
How did you come into this path then? Because I was looking at your history. You've lived in Turkey, you studied in India, you've been to America, Spain. You've been all over the place. How did you get onto this path of being a healer?
I never wanted to be a healer, and I didn't know I had these special abilities. They were revealed to me through the work that they kind of emerged from my engagement with this work. But I did feel that I had I should say, actually, that's funny, actually, now you asked me that question. When I was about 13 or 14, I grew up in Northern England, and, you know, I was a young teenager, and I was really on that artistic self-discovery path. And then I had a voice in my head that I didn't like it. And it would just come into my awareness, and it was a voice, and it said, essentially, you need to be of service to others. And I thought, I don't want to do that. That's
Yeah.
that's horrible. Stop talking to me. And it would, every day would, unanticipated come, and it was horrible. I couldn't make sense of it or tell anybody about it. Eventually it went away. I thought, thank God it went away. And then not long after that, I had these weird visitations where I'd be just in a room or go to the bathroom or something. And all of a sudden my consciousness would start going through all these planes of reality, all these intangible. It would just go like a rocket all through these worlds, these high dimensions. What was that? And it would started doing that. And then later I had a very powerful experience where I had a near-death vision, and I went through this portal, and then it was shown to me that every piece of gravel, every speck of dust, every piece of meaningless substance all around me, like the road or the bits of torn paper, everything like that. Each of those had its own history, its own biography, like a novel. And I was immediately shown and absorbed all of those histories of all those trillions of bits of dust. And it totally startled me. That was when I was about 23. So people have, as you know, everybody has these strange metaphysical experiences, but I've always been an explorer of reality, continue to be. So I studied both inwardly, outwardly, etc. So eventually I developed capabilities that I use to heal people in medicine, so in teaching, that we've touched upon today in our conversation.
Well, you put a lot into this one lifetime. I'm sure it's Been a busy one.
Yeah, it's kind of busy. It's a lot to take on, a lot to do sometimes.
When Deborah found you, she uses a pendulum, obviously an Aetherius Society pendulum to see who's hot, and she got a good reading from yours. You also use a pendulum, I heard.
Well, I was gifted one, and I still have the original box from the Fulham Road, a beautiful white box and the birchwood pendulum. I used that early on, and with great success. I was very fond of that particular pendulum. Elsa. I don't use it very often anymore. I don't use pendulums very often anymore, but that was a great helper with me. And so I was kind of chuffed when I heard from you and the Aetherius Society, and oh, finally, this pendulum. This is
that.
Yeah. All right. Well, this has been a really great chat. We could keep going, but I think we're out of time.
Time is always a hard taskmaster, and I know we're at the end of our time, but it's been a pleasure for me meeting both of you and discussing, or beginning to discuss, some of the kind of interface or crossover between your tradition, your spiritual teachings, and where I'm coming from, my research and my philosophy, etc. So it's been an interesting and positive exchange.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you for inviting me. Yeah.
And if you ever get to Fulham Road and you want to stop by for a coffee,
Sure, I'll do that. Thank you.
all right. Thanks again, Nicholas. Great.
You're welcome. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye now.
Bye.
If you'd like to learn more about Nicholas and his work, please go to FridayHarborHolisticHealth.com. Links in the show notes. And you want to learn more about the Aetherius Society, go to aetherius.org. Thank you.